Okay, and for the purposes of this, I kind of maybe want to where are we? Yeah, let's create a more interesting structure here. Let's do something like this. And let's instantiate it. And just, again, localize the translation. And let's copy this a few times. Okay, that's kind of cool. Let's have a look at our other pieces. Alright, we have this. Let's place this there. And maybe let's enlarge it a bit until we have something like this. Let's create an instance and let's localize it again. So what I'm doing is I'm using these base blocks as a basis for everything that I'm placing on top. However, I'm kind of covering them up so that even though I retain their shape, you don't see the simple geometry. We're kind of getting something more interesting. What have we got here? Let's make this bigger. Cool. And let's see this one. Let's put that there. And let's have a look at this. And let's just finish this off by putting it here. And maybe copy there. So what I'm trying to do is create some sort of architectural style that looks a little bit realistic, but also is something that can be quite loose. So all of these parts, they're not anything exact, but I'm first trying to create a cool shape. And that is maybe the key word here, just trying to make it cool from the beginning. Or at least something that looks more planned out. Okay, so before I proceed any further, I'm going to import some more geometry. And here I'm going to create a context called architecture. And let's do file, import geometry, architecture. And this contains a lot of my arches, minarets, piers, towers, and temples that I showed you in an earlier video. So feel free to organize these a little bit better in your project, again, depending on how big of a project you're working on and whether you think you will get confused between all of this, but it will be okay, at least for now, I think. And let's take these arches. Actually, let's have a look at them on an object level, and I will want to take a couple of these and determine which of them would work the best for my scenario here. And I'm trying to think about this scale here because I want these to be really big, and some of them, for example this, has elements within it that are obviously of a certain scale. These lamps are not going to be, you know, 5 meters long or anything like that if I make this a gigantic arch. So maybe this would be too obvious that it's at the wrong scale, but maybe one of them will be okay. This one, again, might be too obvious, but for example, this has no discerning features. This arch could be any size, really, so I quite like this. Here, this has all of the roof tiles, which obviously are a normal roof tile size, as does this, but I think I'll take this one as well and then try to disguise the fact that these are not the correct scale later on. And you will see in a second what I mean by correct scale. So let me take 3 and 1, and I'll just instantiate them. And if you have both selected, you can change the attributes for both at once. So let's localize the translation, rotation, and scale. And let's drop them in this folder. Again, let's select to view this. Okay, so here, these are more or less the correct scale. Actually, might be still too big, because an average house that I have in this scene, the model might be around this big. So these are actually already gigantic, and I want them to be gigantic, but I have to be mindful of the fact that they were not created to be that scale. So I'll have to be careful when I'm painting to hide that fact that they are the wrong scale. So let's take one of these, and let's rotate it 90 degrees this way. And let's place it here, and let's make it even bigger. And these are not unbelievably large. There do exist arches of this scale in the world, but we have to just make sure that the details we have on them sell the scale correctly. Because humans are very good at noticing when something is the wrong scale, and they might, if they're not an expert artist, they might not know what is wrong, but they will feel that something is not right. So we have to be very careful here with these. Let's make this bigger here, and let's put this here like this, and we could even expand it this way. Okay, and don't worry too much about this. We can adjust this slightly, and this will be in the shadow. It's not going to be too visible. It won't be a big problem. This, however, let's make a copy, and let's rotate this 90 degrees, and let's just put it here. Cool. And maybe even another one that we could put here. Cool. Okay. I think let's take one of these. Yeah, maybe that one. And let's just copy it. And let's move it here. I want to very roughly close this gap, I think. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Something like this, maybe. Okay. And let's go back to our architecture folder. And let's pick up our steps and make an instance. And again, let's localize these factors, attributes rather. And Let's throw this in here as well. Oh, wrong one, sorry. Okay, let's move this here. And let's have a quick look through our render camera. We can make this wider. Okay. So currently we have nothing underneath it, so let's just take one of our cubes and let's just copy and put it underneath. This again doesn't have to be detailed because no one will really notice what is underneath. It's so low in the image, and if we put a little bit of texture on it, it'll be okay. You gotta be thinking very efficiently. What is this easiest way of doing everything, right? And the quickest, especially when you're working by yourself and you don't have a team. And we've already discussed this. You want to find the quickest, best cheats to achieve the highest quality work in the time that you have. So here again, let's take our steps and let's just create a copy of the instance and put these here. Okay, that's quite cool. And let's just take them again. Let's rotate 90 degrees. Oops, not 90. Not 909, sorry. 90. Move them here. Maybe make them a little bit slimmer. Cool. And then, again, let's think of a creative solution of what to put underneath these. So, we could take perhaps one of these and copy it. And let's just make it really wide. Okay. Maybe angle it this way. And we have to be thinking logically, so these steps have to lead to something. So let's leave this area where people can walk down, and then maybe go here. And shape it like this. Again, here we've got crazy things going on at the bottom, but no one will see this far down. And actually, we can take our steps, rotate them back to 0. Make another copy here, so people walk down from the temple, walk down these steps. Always try to think of what would be the function of anything you're placing if you're creating a city, because everything is built with a function, whether the architect meant it that way or whether it's just something that has naturally evolved as the city was built, because people follow the laws of nature in terms of paths of least resistance, things like that. So everything that you make, you gotta think, okay, this is where people would walk. Why would they build things this way? Why would they build things that way? And if you do that and honestly think of all of the things you're creating and why you're making some creative decisions beyond the fact that, oh, this looks cool or that looks great, you will end up with a better image because it will be functional. And at the end of the day, cities have to be functional, right? So let's make another copy of this and rotate it 180 degrees. And we'll just put this here. So here we have some problems, but they will not be visible. If we look through our render cam, that looks like it makes some sort of sense. Okay. Let's take our bottom box as well. Maybe let's make it a little bit wider. So our structure gets thinner as you go towards the top. An extreme example would be the pyramids, right? So for structures that are this heavy, made of stone, you would have a very big base, broad base, and then it tapers off as you reach the top, because otherwise the entire structure would collapse under its own weight. And without modern materials, people were not able to build things purely straight. So everything had to taper off somewhat. And I mean, I know this is a fantasy piece, but if you ground it slightly in reality, we can pretend that they have some sort of magic or some sort of science fiction tools that we don't, but it's nice to sort of make a little bit of sense. So let's go with that.